What's up guys, New School Cool here, gonna be doing another Hearthstone deck breakdown for the Kids Got Swag. Asked me to do a Shaman deck, so today I'm gonna build an introductory Shaman deck that's got three things. First, board control and board clear. Second, enough minions and enough spells to have one fatal turn. And third, a little bit of that sweet RNG. Alright, so I'm gonna start with Lightning Bolt. Throw two of these in here. Deal 3 damage, overload 1. Pretty early, good board control. It can also knock down a beefy creature. Good to save. I like to use one in the early game, save one for the late game. Alright, next we got the Flame Tongue Totem. Adjacent minions have +2 attack. Now this works on both your other totems as well as your minions. It's a great play to turn what seems like a pretty empty and attack-free board into a very solid board. Alright, next. Stormforged Axe. We're going to throw these in. I like to use these early game to set the tempo and really control where I'm going with the game. Take out their minions with them instead of going face with them. It'll definitely help you with that early clear, especially if you draw one early, because you're looking at the a 2/3 weapon. So you get 3 uses out of it, and most minions that you're going to get in the first 4 turns or so shouldn't be too big. You should be able to take them out with that. Next, the pride and joy of this deck, the Totem Golem. It's a 3/4 for 2 with 1 overload. Yes, the overload cost is a little hefty for an early game. It slows down your game a bit, but you've got so much control with this minion on the board anyway that it more than makes up for it. It's a pretty good balance. Next, for that little bit of RNG that I love ever so much, we're going to go with the Far Sight. Draw a card. That card costs 3 less. Now, if this is one of my 7 drops that'll be in this deck, that'll be fantastic. If it's a 6 drop, that's great too. If it's a 4 drop, If it's a 3 drop, If it's lower than that, then I feel like an idiot. So it can go one of 2 ways. I either feel like an idiot or I look like a genius. Either way, I like it. Next, we got Hex, because what's better than them dropping this crazy, ridiculous, legendary creature that's going to do all of this crazy damage to you with all these card drawing effects and damage dealing effects and spell boosting and vamping and stupid Patches the Pirate. None of this. We're not doing that today. It's going to be a 0/1 frog with taunt. That's what it's going to be. That's it. We're done here. Lightning Storm. A little bit of RNG, a little bit of damage. Board control. Deal 2 or 3 damage to all enemy minions. This is great for that mid-game board control. You drop this in conjunction with a Totemic Might, and with the Flame Tongue Totem, and all of a sudden your board is their board's clear and your totems are swinging for damage. Next, Manatide Totem. Why? Because we like to cycle. Cycling is great. You need to be able to constantly have cards in hand and cards to play every turn. Multiple cards if need be. This will allow you to say floating totem 10 times fast. No, this will allow you to constantly have cards in your hand that you can throw out there and use. Next, Unbound Elemental. We've already seen a few cards with Overload in this deck, so now whenever I play a card with Overload, this gets +1/+1. A 2/4 for 3 is actually pretty solid, but a 2/4 for 3 with the ability to buff constantly, even better. Next, call in the finishers, because I can go from an empty board to having 4 1/1s, and while that may not seem significant to have 4 1/1s in the mid game, when you combine it with Bloodlust, which is also going in here, give your minions +3 attack this turn, now you've got 4 4/1s, and you're looking at 16 damage on board out of nowhere. So this is great for if you can get a 1-2 turn combo, if you can clear their board with maybe a Lightning Storm, drop a Call the Finishers, and then the next turn throw in a Bloodlust with maybe a Wind Speaker in there to give one of the minions a Wind Fury, then you're looking at some sweet combos there. Also, going backwards a little bit, I'm going to add the Jinyu Water Speaker. Why? Because I need cards with Overload, and because if I'm using my Battle Axe earlier in the game to hit minions, I'm going to be pretty low on health in the mid game, so this allows me to heal back up in the mid game, get myself in a better point of control. Alright, for my last card in the Shaman deck, that is a Shaman card specifically, is going to be the Fire Elemental. 6/5 for 6, Battlecry, deal 3 damage. Pretty straightforward. You can take some people out with it, or you can do damage to face, whatever works best for you. It's situational, but damage is always good. Next, we have our neutral monsters. this was going to be pretty simple. Along the idea of cycling, we are going to throw in 2 loot hoarders. So when it dies, draw a card. Yep. Yep. I don't really need to explain that one. So you play it early game. I'm going to explain it anyway because I don't care. You're going to play it in the early game, and you are going to use that to beat them over the head with. Because why not? Alright, so I think I missed a Shaman card because the next card I'm throwing in here is Stormwind Champion. This was the 7-drop I alluded to earlier. Your other minions have +1/+1. This is a great play, especially because of all the totems you're going to have from your hero power, as well as from your water and whatnot. Let's see, I feel like I missed a card here. I missed 2. Where did I put them? I had a nice deck build here. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it. I put all these in here, right? I put all these in here. I missed something. What did I miss? What did I do? I'm missing something. I mean, alright, you've got a couple items. You can do Totemic Might. You can throw 1 in there just for the lulz. But, oh, it was Forked Lightning, duh. There it is. Forked Lightning. More board control, more RNG, deal 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions, and an overload. So this has some great synergy with that overload. It's got 2 damage to 2 random minions for 1. Pretty solid. You can use it. I recommend using it when you have the Unbound Elemental on there, so that way you reap more benefits, especially because that overload cost is pretty hefty and it sets you back. Anyway, this deck is pretty complete. You've got a good amount of creatures and spells and whatnot. While it may seem a little light on the minions, one thing you'll have to keep in mind as well is that a lot of these cards here work to make your totems actually do damage instead of just being there. Instead of being like 1/1s or 0/2s or 0/3s or what have you, you'll have the ability to turn them into some attacking creatures. So here we go. We've got Budget Shaman deck. This is the curve I've got on it. You'll notice a lot more towards that early game. A lot of those early cards have overload effects though, so that kind of rounds out a little bit better to the mid, and then we got a nice balanced late game. You should almost never be playing with full mana when you start your turn. You should always have like an overload card in hand and be using that and trading against the future mana pool, because your highest card is a 7-drop. And you don't have too much, obviously, in the 5, 6, 7 area. So it's a good way to control your overload. Just keep that in mind in the early turns. You don't want to be spamming cards with overload, because if they can get a lot on board and you have nothing on board, you've already lost control, and you've probably already lost the match. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. This is a pretty simple deck breakdown. If you have any more questions, or if you want to see another deck broken down, do feel free to leave a comment, or you can shoot me a message on Twitter. You can interrupt me while I'm streaming and say, hey, stupid, do this instead. I mean, I would hope you'd be a little bit nicer than that, but any comments on my stream would be nice. I will put that stream link and my Twitter link down below in the description. It would be wonderful if you were to follow and say hi. Alright guys, this has been New School Cool. This is my Budget Shaman deck. Have fun out there, and happy holidays.